Bartholomew Town, brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, and Newport Film.
Bartholomew Town.
All right, welcome into Bartholomew Town. I'm Bill Bartholomew. A major story here in Rhode Island, and quite frankly, nationally this week, as the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management under the Trump administration issued a stop work order halting the offshore construction of the Revolution Wind project. That's a development by Ørsted and Skyborn Renewables. This is not the Block Island site. This is not the first five. This is the new offshore wind farm that's being developed. It's at 80% completion. Now, Trump, they're saying this is a stop work order for a couple of things. Number one, they're claiming there's going to be a national security review. Okay. I mean, please. Ørsted is a Danish company. There's really no specific nature or expressions of what the national security causes are, or national security concerns are. All right, it just seems to be completely made up. But that's there, along with this broader operation of the Trump 2 project to just target renewable energy on the whole. Now, you remember, on the day that Trump was sworn into office back in January, all right, he signed an executive order that, in essence, put all wind turbines under scrutiny. All right. And now here we find ourselves in August of 2025 with this major project being squashed. And look, there are far-reaching consequences for Rhode Island. Let's start right there. First of all, the project itself, no matter what you think about offshore wind, even if you're completely opposed to it, all right, the stupidity of stopping a project at this juncture is just on any baseline level. Okay, let's just take it outside of the context of anything renewable energy oriented. Just common sense would tell you that this is just a ridiculous idea. So there's that. There are substantial electrical grid implications here, all right? There are substantial amounts of jobs at stake that are literally no longer in existence until further notice. And then in the ensuing years, people will say, well, you're not going to need 1,000 or so daily employees once the farm is constructed. That's true, but there are highly specialized tradespeople who are already or prepared to do or are in training to do service for these offshore wind sites, all right? And this is all part of a broader notion that really began under the Raimondo administration and then Commerce Secretary Stephen Pryor, a big push by Rhode Island Commerce to brand Rhode Island as the blue economy super sector hub on at least a U.S. basis, all right, and even arguably on a Western hemisphere, and they think that it could be a global thing. When you factor the blue economy, it's not just offshore wind, remember. It's things like Smart Bay. It's things like drones and other vessels, so to speak, that travel on or above the water, all right? It's fisheries. It's tourism. It's a super sector. It's oceanography, broadly speaking, right? And from that standpoint, Rhode Island, given our proximity to Boston, New York, we've got a great airport. We've got a lot of great academic partners involved, be it RISD or the University of Rhode Island or Brown or just whatever. There are all kinds of reasons why Rhode Island is fit to be a super sector hub. Then you take the ocean and you realize the blue economy has been what is in many ways powering Rhode Island and southern New England as a whole for centuries. It's a no-brainer to invest in this super sector, okay? And this has been a big push. And I would say arguably the flagship operation here is offshore wind. Rhode Island wants to be, it was the site of the first offshore wind farm in the country, that being the Block Island array. And that push continues from an economic development standpoint, all right? So this is a big deal. This is like far-reaching consequences. Now, will this stand? We will see. In today's episode, I speak with both United States Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Congressman Gabe Amo. You'll hear their takes on all of this, everything that's gone into this, all of the sort of residual impact issues, and even how it may be resolved here. So you're going to get two of our local congressional delegation members here on Bartholomew Town today on this. Again, this is a major story. Make no mistake about it. This is not a one-day story. This is not simply a union job story. This isn't even simply just an energy story. This is a Rhode Island's brand positioning going into the future. story. So a major deal. And again, thanks for tuning into Bartholomew Town. Remember, you can support the podcast by heading to patreon.com/BartholomewTown for $3 a month or so. You can support our independent journalism and analysis. And thanks to our sponsors as well, Navigant Credit Union, the University of Rhode Island Online. We have Half Street Group. We have Newport Film, and all of our great sponsors who are with us at different parts of the year. Okay, let's get to it. Starting with United States Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Caught up with him on the phone this morning.
Senator Whitehouse, thanks so much for your time. This is being released on Thursday after it was announced over the previous weekend the Trump administration is instituting a stop work order on the Revolution Wind project. I mean, look, we can look at this from a lot of different angles. Right out of the gate, your take on what seems to be just a bit of vindictive behavior from President Trump once again.
Well, I think you have to see this in the context of the deal with the fossil fuel industry of the Trump administration. Remember, he asked for $1 billion and he got hundreds of millions, and he promised that he would do everything he could to help fossil fuel against its clean energy competitors. And I think that's what you're seeing playing out here. If you want to look for an example, it's useful to look at New York, where Trump pulled the same thing with the Empire offshore wind project. And, this is all basically political extortion. So what was the demand in New York for the fossil fuel guys? The demand in New York for the fossil fuel guys was that the governor allow some stalled oil and gas pipelines to proceed. So once the oil and gas folks had their tribute in the form of the oil and gas pipelines, then the stop work order was lifted, and now Empire is going forward. So basically, it's a shakedown with the fossil fuel industry in the wings, and what we haven't been told yet is what the tribute is that's going to be demanded.
Right, which leads to an obvious question. I mean, whether a tribute or something else that is, a complete shift in the direction that this project has been going fundamentally, which makes no sense given that it is at 80% completion. But with that in mind, what is the remedy at this point other than just hurry up and wait for some kind of opinion, really, from the Trump administration on what that remedy would be? What can you do right now?
Well, there are two tracks. One, obviously, is the litigation track. And I think if you just look at the letter, the order, it gave only the most general and vague reasons. Ordinarily, if the United States government wanted to intervene and stop an ongoing private project in which billions of dollars had been invested in reliance on lawful and proper permits that have already been obtained by the developer, you'd want to be really specific about what the reasons were for the stop work order. Was there a specific safety violation? Was interfering with a training mission for the Air Force? And there's none of that. It's just general hand waving. So I think that signals that the sooner that the developer gets into court, the better off they will be. The other track, of course, is to see what the proposal is, what the tribute is that's demanded in the shakedown. They just demanded that Intel cough up 10% of its shares to the U.S. government. So maybe there'll be a shares demand from Ørsted, the company developing the wind farm. Or maybe they'll say that there's something else that they want from New England that helps the natural gas industry. Remember that every time those turbines spin and create clean electrons, those electrons displace almost one for one electrons created by burning natural gas. Natural gas dominates our electricity production in New England. So every day of delay that the natural gas industry can buy is money in the industry's pocket. And so they don't have any incentive to come to terms unless they've got something big that they want. And for the life of me, I don't know what that big thing is. There's no, stalled gas pipeline the way Governor Hochul had.
Right. There seems to also be a sentiment right now that is mostly available in, I don't know, talk radio callers or the comments of social media that is aligned with some of the anti-offshore wind organizations on some of the things like, all right, the wind turbines, they kill whales on a regular basis, or this is somehow wholly inefficient or not part and parcel in a broader renewable energy strategy. What's your message to the people right now that are getting caught up in some of this kind of astroturfed propaganda out there opposed to offshore wind?
We know what is killing whales. It's very much entanglement with fishing gear that kills whales. It's very much boat strikes where boats that are traveling faster than the whales run into them and kill them, like roadkill.
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain extent, it's plastics ingestion. You see these whales wash up with these huge amounts of plastics in their bellies. So if people were sincere about wanting to protect whales, we know how to solve that with different fishing gear, with speed limits in certain areas where whales are frequently found for vessels, and with limiting plastic pollution in the oceans. And none of these groups seem to care one whit about any of those three things that are the actual proven dangers to whales. So you have to look elsewhere for their motivation. And frankly, the alignment with the fossil fuel industry is hard to ignore.
Last question in terms of Rhode Islanders understanding the scope of this from a jobs perspective and from broadly, Rhode Island has made a lot of effort, successfully so, to be positioned as a blue economy super sector driver. This is a major blow to that if it in fact holds up. It seems like there's certainly remedies available for it to not hold up. But at this point in time, what can you tell Rhode Island about the broad investments, both in terms of dollars and strategy, that the state has made into the blue economy in an environment that right now seems so unpredictable in so many areas, but particularly aspects of the blue economy?
Well, first off, these are really good, very well paid, usually union jobs. And they are sufficient in number that the trade unions have actually been setting up training pipelines to be able to supply the workforce that the construction and maintenance of the turbine farms will require. Then there's a lot of support stuff. You go to Blount Marine or to the boat manufacturer at Quonset, and they've been building special purpose vessels for delivering work crews out to the sites and getting them on board, and even putting them up if they have to, overnight on board. So there's considerable manufacturing in addition to workforce, and then you've got places like Quonset and where the actual properties have been dedicated to supporting the wind farm construction and maintenance. And then the other value is that these wind farms come in below the cost of the price setting fossil fuel plant that produces power. If you think of it this way, the grid operator lets companies bid, and they take the cheapest bid and bring that power plant on, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one as they need it, with each power plant getting more expensive as they bring on more and more expensive power plants. These ones fit into the middle, so they basically decommission the most expensive fossil fuel powered electric plants because they're not needed any longer because of all this relatively inexpensive clean power. So when those more expensive plants are stood down and don't have to run, then the price is set by the less expensive plants, and that sets the price for everybody. So it really comes through hard into electric bills. We're going to see electric bills climb markedly because of this effort by the fossil fuel industry to put the foot of government onto the neck of its clean energy competition.
Mm-hmm. Senator Whitehouse, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks again.
Thank you, Bill. Good to be on with you.
United States Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Now, my conversation with Congressman Gabe Amo.
Obviously, right now, there's so many aspects to what's happening with the Revolution Wind Project, and broadly speaking, with what amounts to an attack on offshore wind that began prior to the Trump 2 inauguration and came into full effect literally on the day that Trump was sworn in. Your initial reaction to the suspension, the work stop order around the Revolution Wind Project?
Well, first and foremost, I am frustrated and really upset with this action that I don't think reflects a lot of thought, a lot of concern for the pocketbook issues that we hear the president talk about. And in fact, this only makes things more expensive for Rhode Islanders, and then makes it harder for Rhode Islanders to make a living. Those who have been working on these projects. So I am going to fight tooth and nail alongside the delegation and other leaders to make sure that we go on. This project must go on.
Well, you're talking about a project that's 80% complete, and there's a couple of ways to sort of evaluate this initially. One thing to look at is the basic one, which is that when we talk about the blue economy, one of the major propellers of it is the job creation aspect. You're talking about nearly 1,000 jobs involved in the production here, and untold jobs that would relate to the continuance of maintenance, the shipping around it, the smart bay technology around it. This is fundamental to Kwan's point. Talk about just some of, from your office's standpoint, some of the impact directly on Rhode Islanders and Rhode Island adjacent employees. Maybe they live in southeastern Mass or in Connecticut, but still are contributing economically to Rhode Island. Talk about the jobs impact.
Yes, you look at this particular project and offshore wind writ large, starting with Rock Island, moving on to Revolution and projects that are in the pipeline. And you think about the spurring of a whole industry, an industry that requires jobs, talent, and capabilities at every level. You think about all of those new wind energy supply chain related companies in the CIC building in downtown Providence, to the skilled tradespeople who have gotten training from CCRI to get certifications in wind and working at heights, to all of the back office capacities. We're talking about an industry. This isn't merely a project. This is an ability for us to move our economy forward into a blue economy that is utilizing our biggest strength and asset, and that's the ocean. And so the range of people affected is wide. That's why this is devastating, and that's why we will continue to advocate vigorously to ensure that this project goes on, that we continue to grow the sector in a way that allows us to have economic opportunity, that allows pocketbooks and all of those kitchen table challenges that Rhode Islanders face with costs to be addressed by lowering the price of electricity, and of course doing right in our fight against climate change.
There's this notion that this is a good thing that some people are posting or sharing or talking about they're saying that, well, Rhode Island should never have been involved in this project to begin with. And you know what? The sector itself, that the sector being offshore wind, could become an outdated tech space very quickly. There's obviously been sort of an astroturf and a more professionalized opposition movement to this project and offshore wind in general. So what do you say to the naysayers that are looking at this and saying, well, this isn't going to help my electric bill. In fact, it may hurt my electric bill. That's something we're hearing a lot of, to have offshore wind expanded. And what's your message to folks out there that are celebrating this work stoppage?
Bartholomew Town.
Are you ready to take the next step in your career? At URI Online, they offer business and leadership-focused programs designed to fit your life. Whether your goal is to advance your career in fields like public administration, supply chain management, or training and development, their online programs provide the flexibility you need with a high-quality education you deserve. Learn more from experienced faculty and collaborate with a network of professionals, all from the comfort of your home or wherever life takes you. Visit uri.edu/online to explore programs and start building your future today. URI Online. Learn anywhere with us. Newport Film is celebrating 15 years of outdoor documentary film screenings every Thursday through August 28th. New critically acclaimed documentaries curated from Sundance, South by Southwest, and Tribeca screen at ever-changing, iconic outdoor locations across Newport and Aquidneck Island. A beloved summer tradition. Pack your blanket and lawn chair. Arrive early for free popcorn, live music, and filmmaker conversations. Head to newportfilm.com for all details. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Yeah. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communications, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com.
Those folks are frankly missing the facts and missing the realities that we'll face in the coming decades as it relates to energy use in our region and around the country. We will need to increase the mix of renewables in order to meet the very rapidly growing demands on the grid for things like AI, for data centers, for the consumption that is not just forthcoming, but that is here and growing. And so I say to those people, just look at the facts. This is a project that would, when completed, provide energy for 350,000 Rhode Island and Connecticut households. That is a very significant dent in that rising energy need. And so we've had years of approvals, years of scrutiny, years of action. So to not move forward, frankly, cuts a point, and in fact, reflects the waste that we will experience if we don't move forward. It would be wasteful of taxpayer dollars, our time, energy, and effort, and I'm going to keep working hard to make sure this gets done.
Last question as we look at this right now. Senator Whitehouse just spoke with us and offered a take that there could be two pathways here. One, a litigious path that involves, obviously, the filing of lawsuits and trying to undo the work stoppage. The other thing that Senator Whitehouse suggested, and I just wonder your take on this, is this just another situation where Trump and the Trump administration as a whole are saying, we're going to do something outrageous to try to get something else that we want. You can think of Brazil with the tariffs there to try to somehow unjam Bolsonaro from his, well, we'll say potential to be determined coup plot or whatever it may be. There's so many examples of this where Trump uses an issue to try to get something else. Are you hearing anything on Capitol Hill or from your colleagues or from anybody else for that matter, that this may just be a token in a larger piece that Trump is trying to win some other concession?
Well, look, I think it's very difficult to get into the mind of the president and this administration because their behavior has been erratic and unpredictable. But to the senator's assessment, past maybe prologue here as it relates to Revolution Wind and the wind industry writ large. There may be a price to pay. I don't know what that is today, and I hope that we're able to get a fair airing of our grievances, concerns, and real community sentiment around this project. But the tactics that we've seen deployed by the president and this administration has not been, I believe, consistent with our values that we let the market freeze our country and our community with excessive tariffs to solve for unrelated economic or non-economic issues. So we have seen, these instruments, the tools of government, be used in a way that we haven't seen before. And I do not want Rhode Islanders to be, paying a ransom on this project. We know on the merits that Revolution Wind and wind energy are part of our clean energy future to lower costs, to provide jobs, to fight climate change, and that is what should be evaluated above anything else.
Congressman Gabe Amo, thanks for your attention to this. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bill.
All right, so stay tuned to Bartholomew Town as we continue to monitor this story. It's going to be exactly as Senator Whitehouse laid it out. It's either going to be a scenario where you've got legal remedy, injunctions, lawsuits and injunctions, right, that will allow for the work to resume out there, and you'll just have one of those kind of protracted battles that we've seen. Or this is going to be some kind of pivot point in a broader trade strategy, if you will, that the Trump administration is looking for. Now, don't make any mistake about it. It hasn't been talked about a lot, but I'm telling you right now, the whole nonsense a couple of weeks ago with, last week with this sanctuary state nonsense, Pam Bondi sending a weird and non-specific letter to some states and municipalities demanding that they address her by the end of the business day last Tuesday, literally to say what they're going to do to suspend or eliminate their, quote, sanctuary city status. And that letter not including any definitions as to what a sanctuary city or state is. Now, Rhode Island, McKee, and Attorney General Nerona, they said, no way, this is garbage. They didn't return the letter. So is this part of a broader retribution campaign by the president? Could very well be. But make no mistake about it. If you want to target offshore wind and you want to target particularly blue states, Rhode Island's a great example of it. That's where you want to go because they are trying to literally position themselves regionally and nationally and globally as a leader in this sector. And by the way, you got all kinds of wind farms down in red states, Texas in particular. When's the last time you heard anybody talking about that? You ever hear anybody talking about this, the birds being killed there? You want to save birds, take planes out of the sky, please. And that's another thing, too. There's Senator Whitehouse touched on it. There is no appreciable evidence of any significant nature. By the way, I'm a vegan. I'm an animal lover. I'm a conservationist. I'm an ocean lover. I grew up on those waters. I have my own thoughts on offshore wind from a broad-based, from the standpoint of how it is operated and the relationship of government and private sector. I'd like to see something different in some ways than it's actually being managed. That's just my view. I'm not going to get into that right now. But on the animal thing, I mean, come on, please. I pursued this diligently because I felt I had an obligation to. how can I sit here and say I'm vegan? How can I sit here and say I love the animals and I love the ocean and all this? And I'm hearing seemingly not credible, but recurring voices telling me to at least take a look at the whale stuff. It's not happening. The whales are washing ashore, a couple of whales here and there, and it's a terrible thing. But guess what? I remember when I was an 8-year-old kid going down to, I think it was maybe Salty Brine State Beach down there in Narragansett. And we went and saw a pilot whale that had washed up on the shore. I remember going down to Beavertail about 15 years ago, and there were whales that had washed ashore there. And that was well before the installation or the beginning of the Block Island first set of the first array of wind turbines. So let's be honest about it, folks. That's nonsense. I've always said to the Green Oceans group or the Mansions, Newport Mansions, they're big proponents of the wind not going in. They claim they're going to lose their organization claims they're going to lose $5 billion over a 10-year period or something like that, because people are going to look out in the ocean, they're going to say, there's wind farms there. We don't want to come to Rhode Island anymore and go to the Mansions. And so they led with that kind of mischievous type of statistic, which is what it is. It's a statistic that's totally not provable. It's a ridiculous assertion. They compare and contrast a couple other locations. I believe Jersey, one of them, Jersey Shore, where there's wind turbines, and just a silly attack. I've always said, hey, the thing to do is just say, hey guys, we like the ocean and we want to preserve as much nature as we can. Is this really the best thing? Are there alternatives? Give me the AB on what would happen if we put these things on the land somewhere. Give me the AB if we don't do it at all. Give me the AB on what the net benefit is in the long run for me in my lifetime and beyond. And then you make an argument. If you see that and you see something you disagree with the science on, you make an argument that at least you look at the numbers and maybe even aesthetic, and you're saying, no, I don't like the idea of looking out in the ocean and seeing the turbines. I don't like it. And I'd say, well, you like looking at telephone wires everywhere? Electrical wires all over the place. You got a hurricane come through, power's out forever. Especially now with the rates the way they are, and we've seen a fall down by Rhode Island Energy over the course of the last 6 months or so on one particular storm. So the whole system, you can make an argument, has its pros and cons in every aspect. So for those of you who are opponents, I don't care if you're in the fisheries sector or the lobstermen, come with some data that really resonates and make your argument from that standpoint. But just, retweeting a Patricia Morgan tweet about a couple of whales that washed up on shore, and Sheldon Whitehouse is responsible for it because he wanted wind turbines. I mean, you just have no serious standing. And unfortunately, there's no room for debate when that happens. So if you want to create some kind of debate about the future of renewables from an aesthetic standpoint, from a siting standpoint, we did that a little bit with the solar here. You remember? I mean, a couple of years, well, it's actually pre-pandemic, my goodness. But I was going out to the woods. I was going out with Mike Chippendale, the minority leader, Republican representative from up there in the Northwest. I was going out with him. I was going out with Paul Roselli, who ran for governor as a kind of a green progressive. And we were going out to the woods, and we were looking at some of these sites in the woods for the solar farms. And, the question was, hey, everybody here wants to see this, at some level, especially Roselli and that group. And you want to see solar. We want to grow it, obviously. So how can we better site it so we're not clear-cutting trees? Because we were looking at some of the impacts in the nearby riverbeds. We were looking at a lot of stuff. And it was, you thought to yourself, okay, there's an argument to be made here. I'm not saying it's the best argument ever, but there's some here to think about. You get into that kind of debate with people, maybe you start thinking, all right, how do we want to cite this? How can we work federal government? What's the private sector got to say? How do we sculpt this so it's a little bit more democratic? Instead, the only opposition voices that seem to get any traction are people who are using pseudoscience at best to make an argument that the wind turbines are more inherently, or whales and other species are inherently more in danger because of the presence of the wind turbines. And it's specious and false, and it's something I've looked into, Again, I looked into it. I'm not going to say I sat here and was like, I got to find everything about the whale deaths from the... But, you start looking into stuff, If you got enough of you guys write me and say, or respond to tweets even, which I barely check anymore, but if you respond to a tweet, I know you to be a reasonable person in terms of our interactions. You're not just like bashing me for my pink overalls or something like that. You're like actually like interested in discourse. I'll follow up on it for the most part. I might laugh some of it off. I might say, oh, it's really interesting. And this win thing, man, you guys have gone out of control with this one because it's the wrong approach from day one. Can't take it seriously. All right, busy week here. I'm on Lively Experiment this week on PBS. Of course, Monday through Friday, 3 until 6 on the Dan York Show on WPRL, Bartholomew Town Podcast, every Tuesday and Thursday with bonus episodes all throughout. Plus, tonight, if you're around, I'll be at Newport Film down in Newport. There's for the last outdoor summer screening at the Mansions. I'll be there moderating a live conversation with the director of the film. And I believe a couple of the stars from the film that's screening as well. So I'll be doing a live podcast there tomorrow night at Newport Film, newportfilm.com. Of course, they're one of our great partners here at Bartholomew Town. Duly noted. All right, offshore wind. Keep an eye on this one, and we certainly will. Ask questions about it. Remember, there's a lot of stakeholders involved, and there's a lot of people who want to see their situation preserved or elevated. Right? It doesn't mean everybody's an angel and everything. Just because there's but this is an issue where there's a right and a wrong outcome. This wind farm's got to be finished. It's already 80% done. First of all, let's just finish the thing up and let's get a move on it, please. And then you want to spark some conversation about how we move forward. I think that's a reasonable place to go. And I think the tech is going to only get better, and the need is only going to get greater. So I'm all for it, as long as it's not, I get messages from, hey, we want to come on and talk about the whales. And come on, guys. We did it once. We brought on a lawyer for the anti-wind farm people. I gave him a platform. I heard from more of you on that one than almost. People were just like, "You guys, what are you crazy? Bring this guy on?" I was like, he made his arguments. They're silly arguments, I challenged him on some of them, but we've done that. We've been there, done that. So when the anti-wind farm people come up with something that's new, feel free to write bill@ripodcast.com, and we'll make some time for you. But don't give me fair and balanced nonsense because I put the two congressmen on here, not one of you guys. Come up with an argument that resonates, and not just some astroturf garbage. And let's talk about it. All right, everybody, have a great day, and thanks for making Bartholomew Town Rhode Island's leading podcast. Peace.
Bartholomew Town is a truly independent news organization, accredited by Lion, the leading consortium of independent news providers in the country. And we certainly thank our sponsors, Newport Film, the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, and many others who have helped sustain our journalism. And we also thank our listeners who have supported us at patreon.com/BartholomewTown, or you can click the little heart wherever you're listening right now. For as little as $3 per month, you too can help sustain independent journalism in Rhode Island.